Hey, it's the final week of the year, and you are here on Litvak Leadership Live. And boy, have we got a show for you today. But before I enter, yes, I'm squeezing a tension thing because, it's the last week of the year. And so before we go to my guest, the one and only Kim Cromer from the NCFCA that has rebranded their name because it was too long before, but we'll talk about that maybe. First, let's talk about mega coats. So thank you to everyone out there that has been supporting this coat drive. Our organization, the Mastermind or the Megamind Mastermind Group, boy, that's hard to say. We believe we've collected, although we have not counted personally or as a group, somewhere between 700 and 1,000 coats between 24 of us. I've collected, with the help of all of you out there, and a special shout out to my subdivision, 95 coats. So I needed 5 more coats to be number 2 in our group. Right now, there's 2 of us tied for number 2. Not that this is a competition at all. All the coats that I've collected have gone to Jesus Cares at Exit Zero, a homeless support organization, homeless encouragement organization, whatever you want to call it, for Southern Indiana and Louisville. So if you have coats and you'd like me to pick them up from you and you're in Southern Indiana or Louisville, hey, here's my email address. Donate coats for mega coats. Sean.litvak@litvakleadership.com. All right, that is all on the coats. But now I want to introduce you to my friend, Kim Cromer, who is the executive director of NCFCA, Christian Speech and Debate, which, if you think that's a long name, you should have seen what it used to be. So, Kim, how are you today?
I'm doing really well, Sean. Thanks so much for asking me to join you and talk about NCFCA.
I am so excited to talk about something that is near and dear to our family's heart. But first, I've got to ask you, is the Liberty Bell plaque behind you an award or something to remind you of something? What is that about?
Really good question, and a call out for one of our good friends, the American Legion. I was honored to get to serve as a judge for their national final oratorical contest, which was almost totally dominated by NCFCA students who were out there speaking about constitutional issues that were important to them.
Wow.
So cool plaque.
So they gave you a plaque for being a judge.
Pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's like, look, I got a trophy. And I showed up and told you what you did right and what you did wrong. Very, very cool. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about the NCFCA and, the help and the importance that it is to the community.
Sounds great. NCFCA is a Christian speech and debate league for students who are 12 to 18 years old. And we were founded in 1997 for the purpose of helping young people learn to grasp onto their voice, to really learn to communicate truth, to be communicators that were full of integrity and grace, to learn to think, to research, to synthesize information, and to be able to share it persuasively in whatever it is that the Lord calls them to do.
So now I know when we were involved with the NCFCA, it was a homeschool-driven organization. Is that still the case?
It's actually not still the case technically. We are probably still 98% homeschoolers. But we're also blessed to be to have added in some other families who may send their kids to private Christian school or to public school, but feel like this is an important part of their family's goals. So the families are still really the unit. So again, a Christian organization that utilizes families to be able to help train their kids.
Now that's really great that it's expanded beyond the homeschool community. And I remember when we were involved there were some Jewish families that were involved. And I remember talking to them. I was like, why are you involved in a Christian speech and debate organization, and they said, it didn't matter. It was about speech and debate. So it was really open to see something like that go on. So what does the NCFCA train? How does it actually work? Because I know there's speech and there's debate, and yeah, I'm kind of priming you with an answer that I know, since truth be told, I was the state rep for 2 years for the state of Indiana, but that's when our kids were younger and in high school. Now they're all grown and out. So tell us a little bit about how the organization works now.
That sounds great, Sean. And we loved that you were our state rep. You did a great job of sharing that with families around the area. And word of mouth has been really a mechanism for this activity to be spread far and wide. We really focus on two main areas. First of all, we give educational opportunities. So we now have, even since you've been in the league, we have a full curriculum. We have a full training program that really takes us from late summer through about this time of year, because our competitive season then picks up, and the students are able to take the skills that they've begun to acquire in the summer and fall in the practice season into the competitive arena. And there, as you said, they can participate in 10 different types of speeches. They can participate in 3 different styles of debate. And through that, they learn particular skills, depending on what they choose, particular skills that they may want to hone for their particular year, maybe in school.
So like what kind of skills?
The kinds of skills they're looking for are those critical thinking skills, research skills, the ability to really get into maybe the internet and start researching a particular topic and find the truth there, to actually go down sort of to the bedrock, to break those ideas down to foundational information. This year, certainly the real life of 2020 has been value debate. How to think about the ideas of what should be done, who has the authority to make that decision, and what should my response as a Christian be to that. So they have an opportunity to explore current events. They apply their faith directly in events like apologetics, but throughout, even in application of policy. This year we're talking about immigration in the European Union with our team policy debaters. And so to think about, how do Christians think about those types of issues? The idea that your worldview actually affects how you think about everything is not necessarily something that people just inherently realize, but you actually have to learn to apply that worldview to questions that are in real life. And certainly, go ahead.
No. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say, certainly civil discourse. Wow. Wouldn't that be a novel idea these days?
Oh, yeah.
We want our kids to have the ability to respectfully disagree. Not just agree to disagree, or like on social media to just argue with one another, but really to agree where you can agree and disagree in a way that's constructive. So I think wherever these kids go, whatever area of life, whether it's their family life, their neighborhood life, their professional careers, application of the skills that they get there, it really changes how they can interact with the world around them.
So do you see, because I know every year there is, for at least team policy debate, which for the viewers is when 2 students get up and debate one another in a very systematic, organized way that we're not going to get into. There would be a resolution. And as I'm sitting here listening to you and thinking about all that has gone down this year, Do you think that next year there would actually be a call for a resolution that addresses the positions that the governors have taken throughout the country, whether you are pro or against how many governors just issued executive orders, didn't go through their houses and their senates? Some would say legally, some would say illegally. Is that something that we can look forward to next season to potentially be debated?
I would say, Sean, the answer is sort of yes. Yes, I think that will be a topic at some point. It will probably not be next year. We really, when we choose resolutions or topics for, especially for debate, now certainly kids could choose that for their speeches.
Right.
But for the debate topics, we want to choose things that are relevant, but we also want to choose things that are not so emotionally charged that it would create really lots of division within the whole platform. So, and we also want our judges, because we haven't talked about judges yet, and I'm sure we will, but we want our judges really to be able to come in sort of with a clean slate of listening to the debate and not becoming the third debate team.
And I can tell you from judging also, putting aside one's own perceptions and just listening to what is being stated is more difficult than one would think. So, Kim, how do you define leadership?
Oh, good question. Leadership, to me, Sean, is on any level, you need the ability to communicate effectively, to share ideas, and to be able to influence others in a positive way, not by force or by executive order, but by just by having the ability to share a position and a procedure for being able to go to that next step.
So, as part of the training within the NCFCA, how do you encourage the students to do what you just said?
Well, I think the most important part that we do, Sean, the most important thing is to teach them to think. Because if they can process correctly and rightly, not necessarily that one thing is right or one thing is wrong, but from a biblical worldview, to be able to think through a problem and to address it effectively, that's the key. That's the key to the next stages of their life.
So how do you handle when you say from a biblical worldview? I mean, if you take three different denominations, evangelical, Baptist, and charismatic, okay, yeah. The biblical worldview between and I choose those three because I have been all three of them. Okay. How do you choose? Those have some very conflicting biblical views. Mm-hmm. Some would say not, some would say yes. How do you get people to choose what you just said through the biblical worldview when they may look at something and say, well, that was for yesterday, it's not for today?
Right. Well, I think the beautiful thing, Sean, is that, we are a non-denominational organization. So when we say from a biblical worldview, the stance that we take is on the foundational tenets that are outlined in Nicene Creed. Now, certainly there are kids, and this from being in the league, kids and parents who will debate doctrinal issues. And that's a great thing, because as an organization, we don't say this is right or this is wrong, but we give the kids and a lot of times the parents the tools with which to process that question for themselves. So we don't take those doctrinal stances as an organization, but again, give the toolbox of resources to families. And again, that's one of the reasons, Sean, that families are so important to us. So as we bring in, kids from different schooling backgrounds than our original homeschool background, it's still that family unit, because we want your family to be impacted by your students' participation in the league.
Okay, so what are some of the professions that some of the alumni have gone on to? I mean, I can tell you that off the top of my head, I can say investment banking, consulting for large organizations, and one member that I know of, I believe, works in the White House.
Yeah.
So
we have really, honestly, the gamut. We have homeschool parents, we have pastors, we have coaches, we have authors, we have filmmakers in Hollywood.
Yeah,
we have doctors, we have attorneys, we have politicians. You're exactly right. We have more and more people who have an NCFCA connection, our alumni, and some of our alumni parents who are making their way into the national political arena. I mean, obviously, Mark Meadows, he's the chief of staff to Donald Trump, and he's an NCFCA dad. And he was, just really had a lot of good things to say about NCFCA and the impact that the organization had on him, not just his students, but on him as he was moving into the political arena. So
what statements of impact did he have about how it was affecting him?
Mark's comment, the last time I was actually in his office, which was when he was still a congressman, he said NCFCA was besides Jesus, NCFCA was the most impactful activity that our family took part in as our students were coming up, because his kids participated as well. But again, as you said, you get involved with the debates as a parent because you serve as a helper or a judge at the tournament, and you're hearing these things, and you're actually learning to think about how best to present a line of argumentation or a persuasive argument as well. So I think, honestly, I laugh, and our staff laughs pretty often about it, saying it's a speech and debate league for high schoolers, but I think the families are impacted in the same way. So
do the students still run around dressed like little lawyers, as I have heard it despairingly referred to as?
I would say the answer to that is yes, Sean.
Good.
We do still have a really high standard for our dress code. And, you can watch even C-SPAN or CNN or Fox News, and, you see maybe not the professional dress that we would have thought of in maybe years past, but our kids are really still holding that standard and, wearing suit jackets and ties and, dresses. And so, yeah, it's really fun.
Good. So looking at leadership as a whole, who do you look to for inspiration? And saying God and Jesus is not an acceptable answer, because we're going to have that as a given. So here on earth, who do you look to for leadership inspiration? Because you're leading a very large group.
Yes, we are leading a large group, and our team does a fantastic job. I am honored to sit in this chair and do that work. I really have kind of a mix of inspirations, I think, when it comes to leadership. Of course, I would do the traditional, Michael Hyatt type things of how to best organize. Public speakers who are out there, who are Stacy Hank, who does a lot of presentation. I think she does a great job with good leadership mentoring. Then I also have a couple of other folks who are maybe in roles similar to mine, who are in partner and like-minded organizations that I also kind of pull on their leadership as well, especially through this COVID thing. We've developed a task force, and I have really relied heavily on leadership from, medical advice, legal advice. So those kinds of folks.
So what kind of changes have you been able to make in the tournament structure to still make it both meaningful and engaging when people are, I'm going to say, suffering from Zoom fatigue?
It's true. It really is true, Sean. But I will tell you, we have built an online tournament platform, and we built it really to address exactly what you just suggested. The idea that our families who have participated before enjoy the social aspect of what they do, because they're coming together with like-minded families. They're doing kind of a hard thing together. We refer to it often as kind of a safe pressure cooker.
Mm-hmm.
There is pressure. They're speaking publicly. They're learning to defend, and there's spending time doing that. But they're also socializing. They're hanging out with their friends between rounds. They have a debate that sometimes is hotly contested, as you say, hotly contested. But then as soon as the round's over, they shake hands and go and hang out and eat lunch. So when we built our platform, we very intentionally built in some of the pieces that would make them feel like they're at the tournament together. We still have the gathering space where we have announcements and devotion in the morning, where we'll do award ceremonies. We also have little breakout rooms where maybe a club or a region or just a group of kids might go and play a game. So we've intentionally sort of built in some of those on the ground kinds of opportunities within the platform, that is online. We're also super hopeful that we're still going to get some in-person tournaments this season as well.
So with the in-person tournaments, how do you balance the opinions of some versus the opinions of others? Because there's going to be some that say, yes, in-person tournaments, we're there. And then there's others who are going to say, how dare you? How do you balance that?
Yes. Well, I will tell you, this has been a year that I've told our director of forensics, just be prepared. We won't do anything right. The minds will certainly be one side or the other, and lots of folks in the middle. So we're going to have both, Sean. We will have all of our national opens, which I know you know what that means, our tournaments that are open to families across the country. Are all going to be online. So there'll be opportunities throughout the season for them to participate if they're more comfortable online for this season, for whatever reason. We also, again, hope to have opportunities in person for those folks who want it. And so kind of a blend for this season. And then we'll see what happens, for next year as far as, having maybe some events online and some events in person, different types of events for them to participate in an online setting versus an in-person setting. So we'll try to meet the needs of everybody. I mean, the reality is we succeed at our mission when students have an opportunity to practice communication skills. And the reality is this is going to be a thing probably forever now. And so being able to communicate online is important, but being able to communicate in person is obviously important as well.
So what do you say to those people out there that, I get on team calls and Zoom calls all the time with people who refuse to turn on the camera and just want to have their voice there. Do you think that will be acceptable expression moving forward, or do you think that we're moving into video is going to be mandated, or not necessarily mandated, because I don't want the government to mandate it, but socially mandated.
Right. I think it will in some ways, Sean, because it really makes a difference. If I were talking to you on the phone versus being able to look you in the eye, it makes a difference at how you communicate. And so I really think it will sort of become socially more acceptable to have video and not just to communicate by voice. I really think it's an important piece. NCFCA would not have chosen an online platform at this moment in time had it not been for COVID.
Right.
But now that we're here, it does provide an opportunity, not just as a stopgap for us to not have to cancel tournaments, which we did back in the spring, but it also provides opportunities for us to go into locations or to provide opportunities for families who may just simply not have the ability to travel and be away from home for 3 days.
Sure.
So,
well, and have you seen an uptick in the number of students involved? Because I know that there was always people who stayed at hotels, people who stayed at more inexpensive hotels, and people who stayed with host families. So, and obviously that was all personal economic driven. With it being online, I mean, did you see a doubling of the number of students enrolled?
Well, that's an interesting question. We have seen an increase of new families who really are participating because it's online. I also think it's been a little bit of a challenge for our families who have only known in-person tournaments. And a few of them are holding out. You know, we're going to just wait and see if we get to have in-person tournaments and then I'll jump on boards. So it's kind of balanced out a little bit to see some new folks coming in and to see some of our folks who have been around for a while who really, like you said, there's been some Zoom, just tiredness, just the boredom of being online. So I think, again, it'll kind of balance out, but I think in the end, once people understand that the platform was really designed for some social as well, it's not going to be for everybody. You know, it certainly requires a certain level of equipment and a certain bandwidth, so that you're constantly freezing. And when you have families with lots of kids, number of devices, number of spaces in the house where they would participate. So it's a challenge.
So I'm throwing the website up here for everyone, and I want to encourage people that where it says right up, I got to put the mouse over here, where it says judge a tournament, you need to click on that. And now, granted, I have not checked out the new website. All right, it's pretty intrinsic, people. And then you go to find a tournament, and then you start looking at, and it's going to pop up, I am sure, online and in person. Well. And once the spinning circle of searching is done, you will be faced, I'm sure, with a U.S. map with regions. Is that correct, Kim?
The map is actually not there. It's a table with a list of tournaments.
Okay, and I'm not sure why it's doing this. It's probably my Wi-Fi. Here we go. So are you telling me people can judge tournaments anywhere in the country, regardless of where they live?
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
Wow. I am writing that down because I think I need to make an appearance as a judge at a place or not. So
absolutely.
Someone had reached out to me to do some judging. Now that I know that it's this easy, I will certainly be taking advantage of this, where people can just go through and look for tournaments now through April, and volunteer. And here's the thing, people. I'm telling you, it's easy to do it. Directions will be there for you. There is a PowerPoint explaining to you how to judge. And with the influx of kids, judges are probably needed now more than ever. So final question, Kim. is, and I want to make sure I say, what advice do you have for my audience as they continue on their leadership journey?
Advice is keep thinking, keep processing, keep providing an opportunity for discourse, for opportunity for folks to be able to share their ideas, to debate, and to meet the challenges that are out there for them, wherever they are in their professional career or in their educational career. Really finding the opportunity to just process through and get down to bedrock in terms of an idea is really the best thing that I can encourage.
That is absolutely great. Thank you so much for being my guest today. I've got warm feelings towards the NCFCA and forever will. My son and daughter-in-law know why, but if I mentioned it, they would probably be very disappointed with me. So I'll let people put 2 and 2 together on that one. But this has been Kim Cromer, the Executive Director of the NCFCA, joining us today on Litvak Leadership Live. And Kim, I can't encourage people enough to go to ncfca.org, read about the organization, especially now that it's open to beyond homeschoolers. People have heard me talk about our homeschooling experience with our kids, and for people who have kids in the public school system to be able to participate in something like this, it is life-changing. That is all I have to say. So thank you again for being my guest. That's Litvak Leadership Live for today. Tomorrow, we have a special guest at a special time. We're coming on at 2 p.m. Eastern with I'm not going to tell you who. You'll see the promo later tonight, but 2 p.m. tomorrow. It's the only day at 2 p.m. this week. That's it. Everyone have a great